Sunlight glinted softly off Malcolm Everett's sleek sedan as he navigated the quiet streets of downtown Atlanta. The air was crisp, the city still shaking off the remnants of morning slumber. Inside his car, Malcolm briefly checked his phone, scanning the day's schedule. As the founder and CEO of Everett Dynamics, a leading logistics and technology company valued at over $2 billion, Malcolm rarely undertook errands himself. But today, he chose to personally handle something uniquely meaningful. The father of one of Malcolm's longtime custodial employees, Henry, had suddenly passed away. The Everett Dynamics community felt this loss deeply. Henry had humbly asked Malcolm if he could help with funeral expenses, a request Malcolm agreed to immediately. The family belonged to a community wary of financial institutions, preferring cash transactions to electronic transfers. Out of respect and compassion, Malcolm decided to withdraw $10,000 cash, personally refusing to delegate such a sensitive matter. Arriving at First City Bank, Malcolm parked discreetly. His attire was characteristically understated. No Rolex watch, no designer logos, just a simple, crisp white shirt paired with dark slacks. Malcolm had long learned the strategic advantage of blending in, allowing people's biases to reveal their true character. Entering the bank, he welcomed the familiar hum of keyboards and subdued conversations. Taking his place patiently in line, Malcolm quietly observed his surroundings. Behind the counter teller, Sarah Bennett, impeccably dressed and visibly confident, exchanged whispers and muted laughter with her colleague Jason. Their interactions suggested a comfort born from familiarity and privilege. Next, Sarah called out, her voice professionally polished, yet subtly dismissive. Malcolm stepped forward calmly. "Good morning," he greeted gently. "Morning," she replied curtly, her gaze quickly sizing him up. Something subtle shifted in her posture, an almost imperceptible stiffening that Malcolm had encountered too many times before. "I'd like to withdraw cash," Malcolm stated politely, sliding his debit card across the marble counter. Sarah glanced briefly at Jason, sharing an amused, skeptical glance, before turning back to Malcolm. "And how much would that be?" $10,000. Sarah's eyebrows arched slightly, and a faint smirk tugged at Jason's lips. "Withdrawals of that size usually require prior notice," Sarah said, her voice tinged with skepticism. "I understand your policy," Malcolm replied evenly. "I confirmed yesterday that the funds would be available today." Clearly annoyed by Malcolm's preparation, Sarah persisted. "I'll need to see your identification, please." Without hesitation, Malcolm placed his driver's license on the counter. As Sarah scrutinized it, he felt the gaze of the bank manager, Victor Thornton, from his glass office nearby. Their eyes met briefly before Victor quickly averted his gaze. "What's the purpose of this withdrawal?" Sarah asked, her tone dripping with suspicion rather than routine inquiry. "It's for funeral expenses," Malcolm responded calmly. Sarah deliberately typed slowly, periodically glancing at Jason, who wore an expression of faint amusement. "Our bank requires additional verification for amounts above $5,000, she announced loudly enough to draw the attention of nearby customers. "Do you have another form of identification?" Without a hint of frustration, Malcolm provided his passport. Sarah examined it theatrically, clearly prolonging the encounter, her movements attracting curious stares. After what seemed an unnecessarily lengthy verification process, Sarah began counting the cash, deliberately exaggerating each movement. $10,000 is quite a lot of cash, she commented loudly, ensuring her words resonated through the lobby. "Hope you have somewhere safe to keep it." "I do," Malcolm replied simply. She stacked the bills with a dramatic flourish, and in an unnecessarily forceful motion pushed them toward Malcolm. The stack hit the edge of the counter, scattering bills across the polished floor at Malcolm's feet. Sarah feigned embarrassment, hand covering her mouth, her eyes betraying quiet amusement. Jason coughed, disguising laughter, as a few customers turned away awkwardly. For a brief moment, silence filled the bank. Malcolm remained utterly composed. He knelt down gracefully and began methodically retrieving each fallen bill. The customers shifted uneasily, but offered no assistance, absorbed by their phones or suddenly intent on their paperwork. As Malcolm collected the last bill, he noticed a familiar figure in the waiting area, Peter Langston, a senior executive of Reynolds Corporation, the firm Everett Dynamics was set to acquire. Peter's troubled expression revealed discomfort with what he'd witnessed, yet he remained silent. Standing tall once again, Malcolm neatly placed the recovered money into his leather briefcase. His eyes met Sarah's directly. Calmly, clearly, and without animosity, he said, "Thank you for your help today, Ms. Bennett. This has been most illuminating." Sarah's mocking confidence wavered, uncertainty flashing briefly across her face, as Malcolm turned and exited the bank, dignity intact. Outside, Malcolm breathed deeply, walking deliberately to his car. Behind tinted windows, he allowed a brief moment of contemplation. His phone vibrated with a message from his trusted assistant, Marcus. "Everything okay, Malcolm?" Malcolm replied simply, "They've made their decision. Now I'll make mine." Starting his car, Malcolm eased away from First City Bank, leaving behind a trail of ignorance and prejudice. He knew exactly who they believed him to be, a mistake he had encountered countless times, a mistake he had always turned to his advantage. The arrogance displayed today would soon face consequences that no one in that building could possibly anticipate. Back at Everett Tower, Malcolm ascended to the executive floor, greeted warmly by his trusted security guard, George Reynolds. "Morning, Mr. Everett," George said, his voice resonant with genuine respect. "Morning, George. How's your son doing at school?" Malcolm asked, pausing briefly. "Doing well, sir," George replied with pride. "Thanks again for your help with his tuition." "He earned it," Malcolm said gently, offering a reassuring smile as he stepped into the elevator. The elevator doors opened into Malcolm's expansive office, a tastefully minimalist space with wide windows overlooking the Atlanta skyline. Marcus Warren, Malcolm's longtime assistant and advisor, stood waiting, tablet in hand. Marcus was loyal and observant, qualities Malcolm deeply valued. "How did things go at the bank?" Marcus asked, picking up subtle cues from Malcolm's reserved demeanor. Malcolm took a seat, placing his briefcase carefully on the polished desk. "Exactly as anticipated," he said calmly. "Unpleasant, but informative." Marcus frowned slightly. "You don't seem surprised." Malcolm leaned back thoughtfully. "I've spent decades navigating rooms where people look past me or straight through me. Prejudice isn't always loud. Often it's quiet, passive. It's in how people pause slightly before addressing you, how they ask extra questions, and how they humiliate subtly enough to deny their intentions." Marcus nodded knowingly. "Do you want to pursue this legally?" "No," Malcolm replied decisively. "We'll handle this our way. Pull our corporate accounts from First City Bank immediately. Transfer all funds quietly but swiftly. That should amount to about $70 million in assets, correct?" Marcus checked his tablet, confirming quickly. "Yes, 72 million to be exact." "Good," Malcolm said firmly. "Execute the transfer on the morning we announce the Reynolds acquisition. Send a clear but silent message." Marcus raised an eyebrow, recognizing the strategic intent. "Understood. Anything else?" "Yes," Malcolm continued thoughtfully. "Look into connections between First City Bank and Reynolds Corporation. Peter Langston was at the bank today. He witnessed the entire incident but stayed silent. His reaction implied internal tension. Let's confirm how deep their ties go." "On it," Marcus said immediately, noting tasks on his device. Speaking of Reynolds, their legal team requested an urgent review meeting prior to the final signing. Malcolm considered briefly. "Arrange it for late afternoon." I suspect there's more going on beneath the surface. As Marcus departed, Malcolm stared thoughtfully at his mother's photograph prominently displayed on his shelf. A former civil rights attorney, Ruth Everett, had instilled in Malcolm the importance of dignity and strategic patience in the face of injustice. "You can never control how people perceive you," she often said, "but you can always control how you respond." Malcolm's phone rang, interrupting his reflections. It was Peter Langston himself, his voice tinged with anxiety. "Mr. Everett, it's Peter Langston from Reynolds Corporation," Peter began hesitantly. "Could we speak privately before the signing?" "Certainly, Mr. Langston," Malcolm replied calmly. "I'll see you at 3. Later, Peter arrived, promptly visibly unsettled as he entered Malcolm's office. Malcolm gestured to the chair opposite him, maintaining a composed demeanor. "Thank you for seeing me," Peter began, nervously clearing his throat. "I feel compelled to apologize for what happened this morning at First City Bank. It was unacceptable." Malcolm regarded him calmly. "Why didn't you intervene, Mr. Langston?" Peter shifted uncomfortably, avoiding Malcolm's direct gaze. "To be frank, shock held me back. By the time I realized how severe it was, the moment had passed. I deeply regret my silence." Malcolm's gaze softened slightly, recognizing genuine remorse. "Your honesty is appreciated. But I'm curious, did you know the teller?" Peter hesitated again. "Not personally, but I do know the bank manager, Victor Thornton. He's friends with several board members at Reynolds. He mentioned the incident, later expressing concern when he realized who you were." Malcolm nodded slowly, piecing together internal relationships. "Your concern seems sincere, Peter. However, my decision on the Reynolds acquisition won't be affected by personal slights. Our partnership remains strong." Peter exhaled in visible relief. "I'm glad to hear that. Still, this incident made me realize I can't tolerate silence anymore." Malcolm's expression was firm but compassionate. Then perhaps this moment served its purpose. Silence always favors injustice. As Peter left, Malcolm received a message from Marcus. "Discovered substantial ties. Reynolds Corp holds significant investments managed by First City Bank, over $150 million in corporate credit." Malcolm considered the message carefully, recognizing the strategic leverage at hand. Moments later, another message appeared, this time from an unfamiliar number. "Mr. Everett, my name is Rosa Mendez. I'm an employee at First City Bank. What happened to you today was wrong, and I have proof. Please let me help." Intrigued, Malcolm called Rosa immediately. Her voice was cautious, yet determined. "Mr. Everett, I copied security footage of your encounter this morning. The manager ordered it deleted, but I saved it first." Malcolm admired her courage. "Why are you helping me, Rosa?" Her voice trembled slightly. "Because I've seen too much ignored injustice. My parents taught me that silence only enables cruelty. I can't watch that happen anymore." "Thank you, Rosa," Malcolm replied sincerely. "Your courage will make a difference. Meet Marcus tomorrow. We'll find a position for you here." Stunned, Rosa thanked him profusely, her relief evident. Malcolm knew firsthand the transformative power of opportunity. At day's end, Marcus approached Malcolm concerned. "Are you sure about this plan? The financial repercussions for First City Bank will be significant." Malcolm's voice was calm, resolute. "They underestimated me because of how I looked. It's time they realize that dignity isn't negotiable. They'll understand the cost of disrespect." Marcus nodded, understanding fully. Quiet, but powerful. Malcolm stood watching the cityscape beneath him, reflecting on how his mother's wisdom continued shaping his path. He would not yell or threaten. He would simply act. True power, Malcolm knew, required neither noise nor fanfare. Its strength lay in decisive action, in subtle but unshakable resolve. First City Bank had chosen their path. Malcolm Everett would quietly and irrevocably choose his. As the early morning light filtered through the blinds, Malcolm sipped his coffee thoughtfully, watching the city slowly awaken. Today would be pivotal. Everett Dynamics was set to announce its acquisition of Reynolds Corporation, a $1.5 billion merger anticipated eagerly by investors and analysts alike. However, beneath the high-profile deal lay another plan, quiet yet potent, ready to unfold. Malcolm glanced at his phone as it vibrated gently. Marcus's message appeared succinctly: "Accounts transferred successfully. First City Bank has begun noticing. Reynolds' announcement scheduled for 10:30 a.m. He typed back briefly, "Thank you. Have you met Rosa yet?" Marcus replied quickly, "She's here, incredibly grateful. Already fitting right in." Malcolm allowed himself a small smile, pleased Rosa had taken a leap of faith to join their team. Her bravery deserved recognition and opportunity. Checking his watch, he left for the office, prepared to face whatever the day would bring.